Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode in my series on the Witcher lore. If this is my first video you're watching, then hello and welcome. My name is Okayguv and I'm here to do the best job I can in explaining and showing you the various characters, creatures, locations and classes from the world of The Witcher. The last episode I did was on the Toad Prince, but today we're digging a little deeper and looking at the story of the Witcher Jerome Moreau. He is another Witcher that underwent experiments similar to Witcher Kian in the respect that it is solely based around his mutations. The entire story can also be uncovered in a very similar way, that being while you are on the quests in order to find the diagrams for various Witcher gear. The story begins many years ago in 1087. While travelling, a mage by the name of Thomas Moreau is attacked by monsters but saved just in time by an unknown Witcher. After all the monsters were killed, Thomas asked what the Witcher wanted or would accept as a reward. The Witcher then stated the law of surprise would be sufficient payment. For those of you who don't know, the law of surprise is an ancient custom. The law dictates that a man who is saved by another will offer him a gift, one that's nature is unknown to one or both people. In most cases, the gift takes the form of the saved man's firstborn child, who is conceived or born without the father's knowledge. That being said, Thomas unknowingly agreed to this, which led to his son being then taken to the school of the Griffin for training. Where most people would accept there is nothing more they can do, Thomas, being the man that he was, vowed that he would one day save his son from a fate he considered worse than death. Years later, the boy that had been taken, named Jerome Moreau, had grown into a very skilled and experienced Witcher. He was described as being tall, thin and wiry while covered in scars. He was someone that could easily be mistaken for a normal man if it were not for the swords, the Griffin medallion about his neck and his extensive knowledge on monsters. He had taken his fair share of contracts over the years and had travelled to many corners of the continent, but still after such experience he was surprised when he was offered a very lucrative contract from Toussaint, a contract he accepted and he was paid for even before he arrived at the castle where it originated from. For a Witcher this is unheard of, as many people are generally well known for underpaying them for their services, no matter how dangerous those might be. When Jerome arrived in Toussaint, he met with a captain that was employed to give the Witcher his contract. After a short while, he concluded the monster that was supposedly there must have been a Leshen. However, things changed when he soon learned that the real benefactor behind the contract was none other than Thomas Moreau, his own father. When this was revealed by the captain, Jerome flew into a rage and ran off to meet with his father. When arriving at Castle Montcrain and finding his father, Jerome confronted him. Thomas explained that he had been researching Witcher mutations since 1102 in an attempt to find a cure for his son and turn him back into a normal man. However, Jerome had no love for his father and thus refused to undergo the treatment, but his father would not take no for an answer. He ended up using a paralysing spell on his son and then transported him into his laboratory deep below ground. To make sure Jerome could not escape, he sealed him in a room that could only be accessed through a portal, thinking that in time his son would come around to his way of thinking. While inside that room, Jerome wrote notes on the back of a diagram you can find there. These notes basically describe the hatred he has for his father and his regret in not being better prepared to deal with him. Following that, he refused submitting himself to any experiments, but after a while he had no choice to do so because otherwise he would never be able to leave. He underwent many experiments that involved his father supplying mutagens into his body with the hopes of making Jerome human again. It was almost as if he was trying to reverse the trial of the grasses, but in the end he enhanced the Witcher mutations rather than eliminating them, making him stronger, faster and even more resilient to toxins, almost as if he was building up his entire immunity and making him a stronger and an overall better Witcher. However, this didn't come without any costs, as Jerome was brought to the brink of death on more than one occasion, but after every time he rose again stronger than ever before. In the end, after countless tries, Thomas gave up. He came to terms with the fact that his son would forever be a Witcher and he went to live out the rest of his days back in Lydia. However, Jerome's fate remained uncertain. According to this, there's conflicting information in the game as to what actually happened to Jerome after his father left. There are notes saying his father would never release him, and at the same time there is no skeleton or body to prove that fact. meaning that maybe his father did actually let him go after all the experiments failed, but people are questioning that because you can still find the diagrams, and people argue why wouldn't he have taken them with him. And in my mind, I just imagine he surely never would have thought to take them with him, considering he's been locked up for so long. I think the diagrams would have been the last thing on his mind when he has the choice of freedom in front of him. Which means that the real fate of Jerome Moreau is unknown.
The 18th of Yule, year 1102. Today I begin my great life's endeavor, one greater and more significant than any I have thus far undertaken, for it relates to me personally, to myself and my son. Years of experiments, research, sacrifice, all for naught. I have failed to achieve my defined objective. Each mutation I applied to my subjects proved ineffective when applied to Jerome. What I meant to cure him of his witcherism, that which I meant to restore to him a normal life, only deepened his mutations, further augmented his speed and strength, rendered him yet more inhuman. It seems my son must remain a witcher forever. I have failed. The time has come to abandon this place. Return home to Lydia. She may yet deign to take me back. The contraption and mutagens I leave here, let them wither and crumble, as did my dreams of regaining my son.
There is actually quite an interesting reference or an Easter egg behind the story, because it's obviously based off of the science fiction novel by H.G. Wells, The Island of Dr. Moreau. The book is all taken from this guy's perspective when he gets shipwrecked and then a boat drops him off at the island of Dr. Moreau, which is basically his home, and he's a mad scientist creating human-like hybrids with animals, as if like a bit like a Frankenstein situation in that way. And the novels deal with like a whole load of philosophical themes, including pain and cruelty, moral responsibility, human identity, and human interference with nature. And this is kind of like where this story pulls inspiration from, because of the human experimentation and all that kind of thing. But it's one of those things that's also a bit on both sides, because the witches also mutate, so that's also counts as human experimentation in that way, because a lot of witches do actually die while going for the trial of grasses, so hit and miss, and it's a bit of another grey area, which is actually kind of cool, because the entirety of this story is a bit of a grey area when you really think about it, because the father just wants to do what he thinks is best for his son, because he wants him back and he feels like he was stolen from him, and that's either because he just loves him a lot, or it's either because he doesn't want to have a son that's mutated. So his reasons behind doing it are a little unsure, but I imagine it's maybe a bit of both, but I can't be certain. It's all really just speculation in terms of what the motives are behind the people who are doing this. It's something that you can kind of empathize with in terms of like who is the real bad guy, and you know what's right and what's wrong, and I guess the whole of the Witcher series really does play on that with who are the real monsters, the people or the actual monsters themselves, when it comes down to morality and having the ability to actually empathize with other people, whereas monsters don't have that ability, so they go around killing and they're more primal, and that's what they're driven to do on instinct. So when you have men doing that, are they more monsters than the monsters because they actually have the ability to feel otherwise? So it's an interesting theory, but that's a whole thing for another day. That's a whole other video. But thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like down below and stay subscribed, because there'll be more content coming out soon. And until the next one, you all go and have a very good day. Colour of Magic.
Hey, Lux, you sure tucked away that beast of him.